Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to another Strain Review. This one is for Season 3, Episode 8. The title is called White Light. So before I get started, of course, spoilers, so if you've not seen the episode, go and watch it, then come back and have a listen. So we get straight into this episode. We have a scene with Icorst, Sanjay, and some poor schmuck who gets impaled. So we're at the blood bank. We finally see the blood bank is almost in a working order. So they're running a test with a mannequin or a test dummy, and Icorst isn't happy. So he uses one of the engineers as a test to see if it works. So that was, not a good scenario, because obviously when that blood bank gets online, only thing left is the furnace. When that is finished, I guess they'll start putting people through it. So the clock is ticking on that front. So that was the intro scene. So moving on to, I'll break it down into characters and a bit of a timeline here. So we'll start with Palmer. So Palmer and Strachian and Fett, once again meet after Palmer has had the white, so he's now in good shape, good working order once again. So what Palmer does as a reward, he points Fett and Strachian at a character called Cyrus. Now he was the captain, not the captain, but one of the people involved with the ship. So Palmer's ship that came into port. So he points, says this is his location, this is his address, and off you go and investigate. And so we have Fett and Strachian turning up at Cyrus's apartment. It's an interesting scenario there too, because they go, there's very little security, because this is all under the protection of, visually it's under the protection of Palmer, but actually in reality it's under the protection of Icorst. So not much security, and the people are just living a normal life. So you see people going to the gym, or just finished at the gym, people talking about a baby. It's very a strange scenario for them to kind of go into that situation after being in how ruined the rest of the city is. So anyway, we see Fett and Strachian talk to Cyrus, convince him to tell them where the cargo went and what the cargo was. So all we hear is that it was a wooden crate. But we move on to the location where the wooden crate was taken, which is the blood bank. So there we see Fett and Strachian find the blood bank and see its purpose. And obviously that parallels with both those characters, because Strachian has been in the concentration camps, and Fett had that relationship. His grandfather was also involved with the concentration camps, so neither of them take very well to that whole scenario. They see that as the same, and there was a fantastic line, very well delivered and very ominous, that Strachian gave to Cyrus when Cyrus turned around and said, he knew about this whole thing, and he said, it was just my job. And the fantastic line, which was Strachian said, as said by countless facilitators of genocide throughout time. And then he said something like, if you talk again, it'll be your last words. So both of them obviously have a personal vendetta, against that situation. Obviously everyone would do, but they are obviously taking it at a personal level. So then we see them kind of go out the back and see where the crate was, and the crate is still there, and they're loading it onto the truck, and we see a bit of a shootout. I got a real, and I guess that shootout kind of annoyed me. I know it's all in a fantasy, it's not real, but a point where you saw Fett shooting a pistol. Shooting a pistol is hard enough. Shooting a pistol when you're holding a backpack on the same arm and running, and the backpack is flapping around on the arm, you would never do that. If you've ever shot a pistol, you know that just annoyed me. Just a real personal gripe there. That annoyed me. But anyway, it was an okay scene apart from that. But we see that Icorst and Sanjay make it out of there with the crate, and I'll put the shot up now, but once again, Icorst's smile is so infuriating for Satrakian, and it's very comical, that kind of toing and froing that they have. Just his smile is fantastic. It really made me laugh, that scene, when they drove away and he had that cheesy grin on the way out. But yeah, not good because the crate escaped, and also not good because that blood bank is online. But in saying that, it is positive because they now know about it, so they could possibly try and take it down. Then they meet up with Palmer once again and say, "You knew about this all along. How evil you are to be involved with this." Palmer's got no response really. He knows, but also he tells them there's at least 100 more like this in North America. So this operation is far bigger than I ever thought it was, and so there's some serious issues about that. But he has a good point. The facilities are not a threat if the master is stopped. So I mean, whilst they could definitely take them down to buy themselves some time, the main issue is still the master. And on to the next few characters. So I'll move on to Dutch and Ephraim. So they're dissecting the black box, and we see they are listening to the conversation of the pilots, and then they find the sound bite of the master, and things just go crazy. The sound is so intense, it starts destroying the building. The desks are falling over. Dutch is incapacitated, and the reason why they're saying she was incapacitated and Ephraim wasn't was because of his age, and that is a true fact as well, that when you get older your hearing does degrade, so you're more sensitive to sounds initially. But in saying that, certain frequencies you become more sensitive when you get older as well. So bit of give and take with that one, but either way, so she's taken out and he manages to pull a plug on the laptop to stop the situation. You'd think he would know how to press the stop button though. Bit disappointed there. He should have been able to just press stop as opposed to kind of probably destroying the black box. Anyway, so we see that she needs to recover, and he helps her out. Not a lot with these characters this time, but a lot of movement, a lot of change, because we see a relationship has developed between those two, and I thought that was going to happen since she went back to Fett's house, Fett's dungeon, whatever you want to call it, Fett's castle. That Ephraim and her have been getting along very well, and every now and again there's a kind of an awkward touch or an awkward moment between them, and it was once again there's a couple of those, and then it turned out that they like each other. So anyway, well, maybe don't like each other, but more just, the situation is there every day. There's a chance of them dying, so I guess why not? So anyway, let's move on to probably the main movement of backstory and character development, and that was over to Gus and Angel. So we see Gus taking Angel to Palmer's Freedom Center. Now, they don't really have much of a choice because I assume the hospitals are all closed, and Freedom Center is probably the only thing still running that has medical professionals. So when they had to fight last episode, when Gus and Angel shot the police to escape the chain gang, Angel was shot in the arm. I didn't think it was actually that bad. I didn't think he was actually hit seriously, but it looks like it was a pretty serious shot through probably most of the arm. And we see that he needs that medical attention, and we see, I guess, some weird things there, a bit more information about those freedom centers, that they want fingerprints, all your information. And Angel doesn't really have a choice, so he has to, and Gus leaves Angel there, and it seems okay. I mean, Angel seems to have some probably antibiotics, and he seems to be on the mend. But we see that Gus goes home to try and find his mother again. Now, there was one line in the blood bank which I guess the doctor or the admin person said to Gus, don't you want to join, give your details so you can give blood to your father? And he said, this isn't my father. My father was a coward. This is Angel, my guardian angel, he says. But from that point, we start seeing flashbacks. So that obviously, in theory, that's triggered memories for Gus of his mother and father. And we see lots of, I guess the scenario is that Gus's mother and Gus have been abused by the father. So Gus, as a child, This was back in 1993, it says, as a child, contacted his mum's brother, so his uncle, and his uncle's friend. They come round to see, and this seems to be a common issue of domestic violence with that family, so I think they've got to the point where there's nothing else to do. I don't think they would ever go to the police or ever go to anyone for help. They take matters into their own hands, and it looks like they probably kill Gus's father. I mean, it's to save... I'm not saying that's right, but it's to save Gus and his mother and his other brother. Because you remember, Gus did have a brother that perished on the first few episodes. So, we see, kind of learn some more backstory about Gus and how he had to become the man of the house at that time. So then we kind of cut back and forth to Gus going home. His mother's not there. Well, obviously his mother's turn to remember that, so he tidies the house. Then Angel turns up and says, mama's boy, because he obviously knows that he's cleaning up for his mum because that's what his mum would want. And with the medication, Angel falls asleep on the couch. Then we have a scene which is, I guess, pretty touching but pretty intense as well, how Gus's mum comes back and she's obviously turned. She's going to attack Angel, and that obviously would turn Angel. And we see Gus kind of walk in. So he has to make a split-second decision, and he decides to save Angel, which is the right decision, obviously. But it's still a pretty touching scene. Pretty good acting from Gus at that point. I quite like that. I thought he did that quite well. And then we have another flashback as well, because at that point, I guess you're meant to think that his memories are coming back for all the decisions he's made that have led to that point. And one of the main ones is when, if you remember back to the first few episodes, Gus was actually the person that moved the Master's sarcophagus or coffin from the airport. So he remembered the first dealing was with Eichhorst. And he's obviously blaming that as the first situation. He's saying there's many that led up to this, but obviously he's taking that all to heart, which is pretty rough. He was definitely involved with that, but he'd made the right call there. But he would obviously never going to forgive himself, I would say. And on to the final thing that happened, the main final point, story progression. We see Quinlan. So Quinlan had a conversation with Strachian about... go and talk to the ancients, let them know about the boat that's arrived from Egypt. So he does. He goes down, has a conversation with them, and we see a different turn from the ancients too, because Quinlan goes to walk away, and they kind of call him back and say, hold on, we'll work with you. And we haven't really seen that, so I think the ancients know that there's a bit of trouble coming. And then Quinlan disappears, and he's going to come back and meet them later. I don't know why he just didn't talk to them then and there, but anyway. So he comes back later. But what happened in that meantime was Eichhorst and Kelly track they call them the Sun Hunters. So they're the kind of the soldiers for the ancients, and Eichhorst has been trying to find them, and he's never been able to. But they send one of Kelly's feelers to follow them, and they successfully find where they've been going. So when Quinlan arrives to talk to the ancients to, I guess, make a plan to deal with the Master, Eichhorst is there with a whole army of Strigoi. And immediately the ancients blame Quinlan, but Quinlan says, no, this has nothing to do with me. You guys are on your own pretty much. So we see that Quinlan makes a beeline to get out of there. But if obviously Eichhorst has that bomb in the suitcase, so he sets it off. Well, he doesn't. He enables it. Then he backs out through the Strigoi to make a getaway. So we see Quinlan trying to head out, trying to follow Eichhorst. He's trying to get Eichhorst, as opposed to trying to save the ancients. And we see him just take out so many Strigoi, and pretty awesome too. Slow motion, good combat, it was quite cool. And we see the other side, we see the Sun Hunters. They don't last very long. Then the Strigoi start going against the ancients. And that was cool to see the ancients actually start to do something. And they are so powerful, it was pretty cool. I really wanted to see that scene continue. I kind of wish that they didn't have the suitcase there to end that scene, as I would have liked to have seen how many Strigoi the ancients actually take on. But we don't know what happened. So obviously Icor sets it off. We're not sure what's happening, how far did the Ancients try to escape, or were they just busy with the Strigoi? And we see Quinlan as well. He's trying to get out of there. So my thoughts on that. Did Quinlan escape? I think so. Because if you look at the scene just after Icor's flicked the switch, we see two scenes, two shots where Quinlan is going super fast down that tunnel ahead of the blast radius. So if he can move at that speed, I think he can probably keep ahead of it. So I think he's probably safe. He might be a little messed up, but I think for the most part, he's safe. But the Ancients, unless they manage to go underground or something, I don't think that they're going to make it. It was a pretty massive explosion. We see a lot of buildings come down in that whole area, the whole ground. There was some serious power in that suitcase. So I think it might be over for those Ancients, but I'm not sure if, is that just temporarily taking them out? Burying them with a whole bunch of rubble, is that enough to kill them? That's something to talk about, I think. But in saying that, if it's enough to take them, pin them down, then maybe the sun will get them in the morning. But once again, how hard it is to kill the Master, surely it's going to be the same for the Ancients. So if he can kill the Ancients by just blowing up the area around them, and it seems a bit off, I think if anything, it's probably just disabled them for a while, whilst they kind of they'll be stuck under that rubble for a while. So pretty good episode, I thought. A lot of good action towards the end. It was a bit slow from the start to the middle, but we had a lot of storyline progress. We got a lot of changes with Gus, so now he's not going to be locked in that location anymore. We got the relationship changes. We've got the Ancients possibly taken out. We have the blood bank coming online. We have confirmation of the crate. It's probably an Ancient, so we definitely confirmed it is, I guess, a coffin or sarcophagus. Are they still alive in there? Have they been communicating to him? We don't know. It might be pointless. There might be nothing in it. It might be a trick. We're not sure yet. But yeah, I guess for this episode, the mystery now is, who is the Master? We still don't know who that is. We see the Master took over Icorst and delivered some lines towards the end, but we still don't know who it is. So all the main characters have been seen, so we know it's none of those. And I guess the mystery from this episode is, did Quinlan make it out? I think he probably did. Did the Ancients? Well, once again, I think they're probably disabled, in a disabled state somehow, underground. But if the Master was in that explosion, I think they would say he's not dead. If the Ancients are in an explosion, are they dead? I don't. And once again, I don't think they are. I think they'll be stuck. They'll be incapacitated for a while. But anyway, I'll leave this video here. So it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it? Who do you think the Master is? Let me know in these comments below. And if you liked the video, like my review, just give me a thumbs up. That would help me out. Thumbs down if you didn't, obviously. And subscribe for future content from myself. Looking at the Strain. And also Westworld, it's a good one at the moment. I might revisit The Exorcist. I started that, but it didn't seem to be that popular, so I might just do a summary of that when that season finishes. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see you later.